What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I begin this video, I want to give a shout out to both Larry and Melvin for their contributions to the channel. All right, thank you guys both for your contributions, your frequent contributions to the channel. And I want to thank everybody that supports this channel and have supported this channel in the past. I want to ask you guys a favor, and I want to inform you guys about something. Because of the suppression tactics that YouTube continues to aim at me and other channels as well, I want you guys to do me a favor. I want you guys to hit that bell that you see on your screen, a notification button for all, so that you guys will get more of the notifications from my videos when they're uploaded. Because YouTube, they really screwing me over, man. I've had subscribers tell me not only are they not getting notifications, but they've told me that they're not even seeing my videos in their subscription feed. I've had some people tell me that YouTube has been unsubscribing them from my page totally. Like they, have thought that I just disappeared. And they'll look at my channel and see I've uploaded like 15, 20 videos from the time they last saw me upload, thinking I just took a hiatus or something. So yeah, the white balling is real with YouTube. And if you look like me, unless you're on here tap dancing, you know what I'm saying? YouTube is not the right format. That's why I went over to Patreon as well. And even with that, they're trying to suppress me with that. But I ain't gonna get too far into that, man. I don't want to get too much too deeply into that. I just want to thank everybody that supports me. So, this is a request from a subscriber. He wanted me to, and I'll put a link to this article in the description box. And by the way, that reminds me, one last thing. There are some people that have asked me how to contribute to the channel, and there are links in the description box. If you choose to contribute to the channel, you can contribute that way. There are links in the description box below, the PayPal or the Cash App, if you choose to. There's also a link to the Patreon. It's only $2 per month. On the Patreon, I'm able to talk about stuff that I can't talk about on YouTube. I choose not to talk about on YouTube. And there's already probably almost 300 videos up there already. So let me get to this video. All right. So I had a subscriber wanted me to give my opinion of a video, of an article that's on Stadium Talk, and the author's name is Tony Adame, and the title is Worst NBA Hall of Famers. And in this article, he has a list of 30 players that he feel like they shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. So the 30 players are, I'm just going to do it this way. They are Bernard King, Grant Hill, Chris Mullin, Gail Goodrich, Earl Pearl Monroe, Chet Walker, Walt Bellamy, Zelmo Beatty, Chuck Cooper, Bailey Howell, Sarunas Marshalonis, Charlie Scott, Bill Bradley, Guy Rogers, Arnie Rison, This website sucks, man. Scrolling is so slow. Jesus. Arvidas Sabonis, Adrian Dantley. Oh my God. Calvin Murphy. Lord have mercy. Bob Davies. Carl Braun. I can't resist for Bob Davies. Let me critique this one. Right? So he says, while it's almost impossible to compare players from different eras at times, we don't really have that problem with Bob Davies. He only played 7 seasons. Now we're talking about late 40s, very early 50s, right? So who knows how old Bob Davies was when the NBA first started? Can't quite remember off the top of my head, but I want to say he might have already been something like 26, 27, or something like that. But anyway, he only played 7 seasons and averaged 4.9 assists per game for his career, which is low even for that era. And it's not. It's not. Um, the NBA was very, very strict in what they considered an assist back then. If the pass did not lead directly to a bucket, if there's a dribble, there's some sort of move, if it didn't lead directly to a bucket, then it wasn't considered an assist. If you dribbled, it was not an assist. Now the NBA has relaxed a lot of its rules when it comes to assists. And they've done so increasingly over the past 30 years because they want a lot of these records to be broken. But back then, when you consider how uh, strict they were with assists and you consider the pace of the game, this is before the shot clock, okay? So oftentimes you might have some games where the final score is 38-34. The league average in some of those seasons was only 50 to 60 points, you know. No, 4.9 assists is not low. But see, this is somebody that doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. I just couldn't resist with that one. Now, I do agree it should count against him that the league wasn't integrated at the time. You know what I'm saying? But come on, man. Carl Braun, Louis Dampier, um, Drazen Petrovic, Dino Raja. Well, look, I'm just going to name some of the other guys he had that I remember. There's too many. Tracy McGrady's up there, Mitch Richmond. Um, I think number one he has Frank Ramsey. You know, he just has a lot of guys that make me shake my head. Now I agree with a few. I don't think Sharunas Marshallon should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think that Dino Rogers should be in the Hall of Fame. And I definitely don't think that Bill Bradley should be in the Hall of Fame. Bill Bradley to me is the number one guy. I just don't see Hall of Famer when I see Bill Bradley. And it's not anything to do with his numbers. You just watch any of those Knicks games. I don't see. You could make the argument he was the worst starter. I really have to think that his pedigree has something to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Uh, where he went to school, uh, his entry into politics. I really think that that had something to do with why he's in the Hall of Fame. Um, and I kind of agree with Frank Ramsey. I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame player. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I know he pretty much invented that 6-man role, but as a player, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. But this is my basic critique with him. and this is what I generally see with him. Number one, he doesn't quite know how to gauge some of the older players. Like I said before, with some of those older guys, their numbers are not going to be that impressive because of the era. Um, am I saying that these guys would magically come in today's NBA and dominate? No, I'm not saying that. But for their eras, they were the best players. Okay, the Ani Risings and the Brad Davies and the Al Servies. For that prehistoric era, they were the best players. So yes, they should be in the Hall of Fame. Their numbers are not going to be comparable to today's NBA because today's NBA, the guys are averaging 110 points. These guys are far bigger, they're far stronger, they're far quicker, they're more athletic, they're more skilled, far more skilled. You know, like I said, they average 112 points a game, as opposed to a league where the league average might have been 60 points a game, and you might have had some teams that were only averaging 50 something points a game. So when you take that into equation, a guy averaging 10 points is not that bad. But if you look at it today, oh man, that's a bump. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just then you got to take into account they didn't uh they didn't count blocks or steals back then, so you really can't. It really takes away from gauging their defensive impact. They didn't have all these advanced metrics back then, so it's really just going off of word of mouth. Like, how do we really know that Slater Martin was a great point guard, defensive point guard? We're going off of word of mouth, but we don't have the numbers to back it up. But that's the thing. If the people who watch these guys play are dead, what are you going by? You got to go by their accounts. Another thing I noticed with this guy that wrote this article is he seems to think that the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame is the NBA Hall of Fame because he questions why guys like Grant Hill and and several others are in the Hall of Fame. He questions why somebody like Drazen Petrovic and some of these other guys are in the Hall of Fame. Well, look, and Ralph Sampson, another guy that he mentioned, was Ralph Sampson's NBA career as dominant as one had hoped? No, injuries, robbed him. You know, maybe his maybe his mental makeup had something to do with it too. But at the end of the day, Ralph Sampson is one of the greatest and most dominant collegiate players to ever grace the scene. He's arguably a top five all time collegiate basketball player. And that alone, even if he never played one game of NBA basketball, that alone would put him in the Hall of Fame. But this writer doesn't quite understand that. Why? Because he's not really a basketball historian who should be writing this article in the first fucking place. Then he's picking on a lot of. I notice he's picking on a lot of ABA stars like Louis Dampier and who I think got in not too long ago. He's picking on like Charlie Scott, who in his NBA career only averaged 17 points, but in the ABA he averaged 31. You know, he's picking on a lot of like the ABA guys. At the end of the day, while you can make the argument that the ABA wasn't as great as the NBA, on the flip side, the dilution of talent from the NBA because they went over to the ABA should hurt the NBA in the 70s, right? So that's my thing with this guy, man. He's looking at everything from, to me, the prism of today, where you have a lot of ball dominant perimeter guys like LeBron James and James Harden and Russell Westbrook and Luka Doncic and others, but mainly those guys. They're very ball dominant. Trae Young is another guy. They shoot, they pass. With the other guys, except for Trae Young, they rebound. So they're padding their numbers. And in today's world, that's not frowned upon. Back then it was. I'll give you the story of Anthony Bowie. In the 95-96 season, there was a game where the Orlando Magic were playing the Detroit Pistons, I think it was at the time. And late in the game, very end of the game, Anthony Bowie was one rebound shy of a triple double. He came to the coach who was what was his name? Uh, with the white hair. Damn, what was his name? What was the coach name? Something Hill? Oh, I can't remember the name of the Magic coach right now. I can picture him, white hair, Clinton, like the Clinton type hair. Shit. Anyway, he went to the coach. The coach was like, "What the fuck?" Like he wanted him to set up a play for him to get a triple double. The coach was so irate that he walked out the fuck. He literally fucking just said fuck it. You know, he thought it was a mockery. The opposing coach, who I think was Doug Collins, was pissed as well. And basically, I think he didn't even have his players come on the court, which I think the NBA fined him for. And David Bowie had an unassisted, I mean, not unassisted, excuse me. David Bowie, I said David Bowie, Jesus. No, but Anthony Bowie had an uncontested triple double, and a lot of people saw it as being like a mockery of the NBA. They thought it was very selfish of him. And you fast forward 20 years later, and while that's an extreme example, the attitudes for stat padding have changed now. But yeah, the thing is, people got to get out of this thing where they look at every player through the prism of today. And another thing I noticed with this article, the author of this article, he seems to see everybody through LeBron James. Everybody's not going to be this all-around player. Okay, um, he mentioned how Earl Pearl Monroe only averaged 3.9 assists. Well, last I fucking remember, wasn't Earl Pearl Monroe primarily a shooting guard? He had him listed as a point guard, which I don't ever remember him being listed as a point guard. Maybe I'm wrong, but when he was with the Baltimore Bullets, he was more of a combo guard. Even if they did list him as a point guard, he was more of a combo guard. When he was with the Knicks, he most definitely was a shooting guard because the point guard was Walt Clyde Frazier. Okay? He also does the same thing with Gail Goodrich, saying, well, how in the world did Gail Goodrich, he really wasn't a great point guard. He only averaged 4.9 assists. Well, motherfucker, don't you know he played with Jerry West, who was really they were both combo guards. Okay? Combo guard is a guy that had the passing ability like a point guard, but he also had the scoring ability like a shooting guard. Okay? The Lakers had two combo guards. Now, for the sake of argument, because Jerry West was a little bit smaller, I think Goodrich was 6'5", I believe, right? 6'4", 6'5". They put West at the point guard position, but really, to me, West is a shooting guard. They both are really two shooting guards. But Jerry West had seasons where he was averaging 7, 8, and I think even 9 assists. So how in the world is Gail Goodrich going to average 8 or 9 assists if you have Jerry West averaging 8 or 9 assists, and then you also have Wilt Chamberlain, who was a great passing big man, arguably the greatest passing big man statistically in the NBA. Although I think Jokic is going to change that perception very soon. Well, you got Wilt himself being able to get 4 or 5 plus assists per game. Where are all these magical assists going to come from? When they're dominating the ball. And Goodrich is more of a jump shooter, right? Where are they talking about? He says that Walt Bellamy shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, even though Walt Bellamy probably scored what? I don't know, top of my head. I know he scored over 20,000 career points, well over 10,000 career rebounds. Maybe it was closer to 12,000. I can't remember. Had one of the greatest rookie years ever with the, I believe, Chicago Packers, when he averaged 31.6 points and 19 rebounds per game. But he's not a Hall of Fame. Under what metric are you looking at? Okay, was Walt Bellamy a little bit inconsistent after the first couple of years of his career? A little bit inconsistent with his dominance? Maybe. But he had a renaissance in his career with the Atlanta Hawks. And that's where he had some of his best basketball, averaging, like 20 points and 12 rebounds. Then he mentions about Mitch Richmond. Not this is the last thing we mentioned because it's too many stupid examples he gives. But he mentions about how he thinks Mitch Richmond is overrated and that he wasn't even a top 5 shooting guard in the 90s. First of all, if you watch the NBA in the 1990s, okay, let's just go for the totality of the decade. The best shooting guard was Mike, followed by probably Clyde Drexler. You can make a case that third probably should be Mitch, then maybe Reggie, but some people might even put Joe Dumars over him and then Reggie. But Mitch Richmond was a top 3 shooting guard in the 1990s. And between 1994 and 97, to me, he was definitely the second best shooting guard in the NBA. He was a great shooter. He could knock it down from 3. He had a mid-range shot. He could back you up because they call him Rock because he was fucking solid. He was 6'4", but 220. He was 220 and could back you down in the post. I mean, he was a force. How the fuck can you say he was a top 5? What are you talking about? Then he said, well, Mitch Richmond only averaged 3.9 rebounds per game. Well, maybe part of that is because by the time he went to Sacramento, he's on a team with guys like Olden Polynice and what was the other guy that was on that team, man? Shit. What was it? Something Simmons? Was it Lionel Simmons? Might have been Lionel Simmons. I thought he used to average like, wasn't it Lionel Simmons? His name, he used to average, he played with the Kings. He was averaging like 7, 8, 9 rebounds a game himself. So, I mean, where are all these magical rebounds going to come from? We got Olden Polynice averaging 9, 10, 11 rebounds a game. It's not like how it was when he was in with the Warriors. They were a faster paced team. You know what I'm saying? Um, with the Sacramento Kings, they had better rebounding. They just weren't a really good team scoring wise. You know, I don't get it. From 89 to 97, Mitch Richmond was one of the best scoring guards in the NBA. Period. But once again, with this Nick Wright mentality, they're judging everybody by these rebounding and assist numbers, which, you know what I'm saying, I could go in on that, but a little bit more so, but I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm just going to mention one other guy. He says that Calvin Murphy is overrated. Well, I can't mention one other guy. I got to mention 2 other cases before I finish this video. Calvin Murphy's overrated because he only was on 1 NBA All-Star team. First of all, Calvin Murphy was 5'9", playing in a very tough era, the 1970s, the same era where Kermit Washington split Rudy Tom Johnson's face in half. horizontally. Okay, when you still had bigs dominating down low. This was not a friendly environment for a small guy like Calvin Murphy, but he was as tough as they fucking came. Okay, maybe he didn't get a lot of All-Star selections, but then, like I've said before, Reggie Miller, in his 18 years as a professional, 14 of them he was not an All-Star. But almost nobody will tell you that, and I didn't see Reggie Miller on this fucking list, but nobody's going to tell you Reggie Miller's not a Hall of Fame. Okay? This is the point I want to make about Bernard King and Grant Hill. He talked about how they shouldn't be on this list. Those two selections themselves let me know this guy don't know a fucking thing about any of those players. First of all, let me talk about Bernard King. Yes, the 22.5 points per game seems a little pedestrian. But that's taking into account a lot of games where he was being lost earlier on in the shuffle with certain teams. They didn't know how to quite utilize him. Or, as a point that I've made time and time again on this channel to be refuted by other people, but I know I'm talking about, the era that Bernard King played in was the golden era for small forwards. You'll never find another era. That's why I have a lot of respect for Larry Bird as a player. That's one guy, yeah, I think I would have got irritated with some of the racial angles back then, but Larry Bird is a great fucking player because he was the best player in the golden era for small forwards in the NBA, right? And that's partially why Bernard King got lost in Golden State, some of these other teams, because they didn't quite have room for him in the rotation. You know what I'm saying? But once he found a home with the Knicks and they saw what they had, and he had refined his game to that point, he was unstoppable. Bernard King was truly unstoppable. Okay, he could not be stopped offensively. Number one, he had at that time a good mid-range game, but he was more of a terror in transition and in the post. You know what I'm saying? Like his turnaround jumper was unguardable. He didn't wait for the defense to double team to come. You know what I'm saying? His shot release was so fucking quick, and he was such a terror in transition. You know what I'm saying? Powerful, quick, explosive. Um, Before Michael Jordan, even when Jordan was there, even Mike's rookie year, it was Bernard King that instilled fear in people. Larry Bird said that, if I'm not mistaken, the one player that scared him the most and kept him up at night that he had to play against wasn't Magic Johnson. It was Bernard King. That knee injury that he suffered, okay, in those days, not only would that have robbed you of your career, but you probably would have been walking with a cane for the rest of your life. That was the expectations that they had set for him. Bernard King said, "Fuck that, I'm coming back." People kind of like, yeah, that's nice for you to hear, but nobody comes back from the type of injury. It's too severe. Back in those days, an ACL tear or an Achilles rupture, that was the kiss of death for your career. The first guy to successfully come back from an ACL, Achilles rupture, was Dominique Wilkins. Okay, and we really haven't had another guy come back to that level since then, with all the advancements. Now imagine a guy like Bernard King doing this in the '80s with the ACL rupture. Okay, when they perform operationally, they laid out your entire fucking knee. It was a prehistoric, gruesome surgery. And they said, well, Bernard, if you're going to come back, it might take you 4 or 5 years. It took him less than 3. Matter of fact, it took him less than 2.5 years before he came back at the end of the '86-'87 season. But the Knicks traded him anyway. You know what I'm saying? Even though he was putting up like damn near 30 points a game in the 3 or 4 games he played at the end of the season. Went to the Bullets, took him a little while, but he regained that form. Had changed his game up, had to be more of a jump shooter, but he went on to be a devastating force again, averaging 28 points a game, regaining the all-star form that people said that he would never get back to. I remember him dropping 50 against the Knicks that year. I remember him dropping 49 against Michael Jordan and the Bulls that year. And you say he's not a Hall of Famer? Fuck you. Yeah, I said that. Fuck you. Because I take what these guys do seriously. I really respect what these guys are able to come back from and be able to play at these levels. Grant Hill almost died on the fucking table. Grant Hill had to almost have his leg fucking amputated because of a staph infection. Grant Hill had to keep coming back and coming back and coming back from injuries after rehabbing for so long to get back to the NBA, only to suffer another injury a couple weeks into his return. And everybody was like, damn, man, this is so fucked up, man. Grant probably had to retire. We had to call it quit. Grant said, no, I'm going to come back again. He kept coming back and coming back until he finally got healthy. Of course, he wasn't able to come back to be the Grant Hill he was before. Nobody would. Do you think LeBron James, as great as some of you guys think he is, I mean, some of you guys think he's Superman, do you think that he will be able to come back from 4 or 5 different surgeries from injuries? He would be a shell of himself. But the fact that he came back and got to the point where he was healthy and remained a productive player for as long as Grant Hill did, that screams Hall of Fame. It's the perseverance. It's the not quit attitude that made Grant Hill a Hall of Famer. Not to mention the fact that he won 2 championships with Duke. Duke! That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. It's not the NBA Hall of Fame. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame. So take your stats and stick them up your ass, Tony.